Buenas tardes amigos, me encuentro con Zen Garcia, una de las personas que más han estado difundiendo durante los últimos tiempos los valores espirituales, el libro de Enoch y toda la relación de este mundo con lo que es la Tierra plana, todos los conocimientos bíblicos respecto de la Tierra plana. Así que vamos a conversar con él en inglés y para saber un poco más sobre él. Él fue el protagonista del caso de Zen Garcia, donde se enfrentaron en la Corte con Maman y bueno, donde él logró comprobar de que efectivamente no había una prueba científica de que la Tierra fuera plana o esférica. Hello, Mr. Zen Garcia, how are you?
Doing well, brother, and thank you for the invitation.
Thank you so much for joining us, especially because for the flat earth communities it's very important for the Spanish flat earth communities, so I appreciate taking a small time.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Okay, you have been developing a lot of books. Some of them very important about Enoch, the traditional wisdom of the Bible. What do you think is so important to share this with the people right now?
Well, I think the most important aspect to consider when examining biblical cosmology is the whole premise that is being pushed by communities such as the History Channel's Ancient Aliens program and others, that the extraterrestrials are the creators of humanity. And that whole postulation is based upon an ever-expanding universe where every sun that we see in the night sky could possibly be a sun and have in orbit around them a planetary system, which, if it happens to be in what the scientists regard as the Goldilocks zone, could then evolve life randomly, and that having been created or manifested millions of years in advance, that there could be other civilizations, cultures, and peoples way in advance of that we see here upon the earth. And so that whole premise establishes the possibility that individuals traveling to the earth from those distant galaxies could have seeded humanity here long ago, and that the mythology contained in the Sumerian cuneiform texts of their coming later to save us and redeem us from ourselves, that all of that is based upon, in my opinion, fabrication when you come to knowledge that the earth is uniquely created and that the other planets and even the other star systems are in no way comparable to what we see here with regard to life and our inhabitation of this very unique and special place.
Right, our personal experience about the world is totally different. I normally said to the people that they use half truth to share full lies.
Yeah, absolutely. And with regard to the prophetic side of what the Bible terms the strong delusion, we know that in Scripture that the Antichrist is revealed and comes to power first over a world order, the beast system, and that he will take control and then declare war on the saints, and he will use half truths, half lies to come to power and to assert that, in my opinion, that he is an extraterrestrial or ancient alien, and that he and perhaps his group were the ones that created us long ago. And so that, in my opinion, will set the premise for many people who buy into and believe that, to bend the knee to the Antichrist and to take the mark of the beast. And so that's why this information is so important for this generation, being lost and led astray and not knowing truth, especially as contained within the prophetic word, that they are ready to accept the aliens as being our creators.
Yes, confused to the people about our real objective in life, our real objective in this moment. So it's very important to share a different point of view from all media because we are not so many. So
Right.
we must
Very true.
support each other. So
Absolutely.
what are the main books that a person must to read to understand about your point of view? Because are 22, so it's difficult to know where to start to understand your point of view.
Yeah, absolutely. The first two that I would read, if you are really trying to understand the bigger picture of where we are and come to knowledge on the larger reasons and purpose of us truly being here, are the Great Contest series. The first book, Great Contest 1, is The War in Heaven, and it talks about how the war, the division of light and darkness, and what led to the ancient aliens or the Anunnaki, who are the fallen angels, from being cast out of the heavens, how they came to be banished, exiled here to the earth and under the authority of death, and that they were here long before we were, even before the modern creation of humanity. And then the second book of that series is called The Great Contest 2, The Enmity Between the Seed Lines. And it speaks about in very great detail the Genesis 3, the story of the enmity between the seed of the woman and the seed of the serpent, and how there are here on this earth two bloodlines, and that there's a physical progeny connected to and dedicated to evil, that truly Cain was of the wicked one, that he was a son of the devil, and that he was the progeny of even the New World Order elites that sit on the thrones of the world today and have historically used divine right to rule to impose their wishes and to drive the agenda of a one world government, one world system. And so, understanding this, one can then make sense of the parable spoken about by Christ in Matthew 13 of the enemy sneaking into the garden, sowing the tares, and that the children of the enemy are truly the children of the devil, and how at the end of days, when Christ comes again, the war between these two peoples will be ended. The harvest will ensue. Christ will send forth his angels as reapers to gather the tares for burning and the wheat for preservation. And this then will finally end this war between these two peoples.
Very, very, very well. We share the same point of view. It's very interesting for us that we approach to the same evaluation about the situation of the world from this different point of view. So it's very impressive that the people that think and look at the world uh, see the same, see exactly the same from different point of views.
Right.
It's
Truth is truth.
interesting for it's very interesting
Yes.
for me.
Hmm.
Oh, we are very interested about Enoch because many people is talking about the
Yes.
importance about Enoch. How important is Enoch right now in the big picture? Why we are looking to Enoch to understand more about science or about the world that is surrounded?
It's a very important source of truth. and one that has been attacked by the seed of the serpent for a very long time in order to keep us in ignorance and to hide the revelation of truth from us. And so, my work on the biblical cosmology, for those that are aware, the first book that I wrote when I came to understanding on this knowledge, and those that are familiar with my work, you know that I have studied the ancient manuscripts, the extra biblical texts, as well as the canonical materials for well over 2 decades now, 20 plus years. And I've read most of what is available to us multiple times, and I'm very familiar with the content of those sources. And so, um, when I was led to the revelation of biblical cosmology that the earth had no curvature and was not moving, especially at 1,037 miles an hour, I realized that the portion of the book of Enoch dedicated to cosmology, the book on the courses of the heavenly luminaries, which chapters 71 through 84 are this portion of that text, it describes the movements from east to west and north to east of the sun, the moon, the stars, and the heavenly luminaries. And so I realized that what Enoch was conveying as motion for the luminaries is a circle. And so, having then understood that um, what Enoch was describing was, if you were located above the circle of the earth and looking down upon it as if you're looking at a clock's face, that he was describing the circular motions of all of the luminaries around what is Polaris, the one fixed star of the celestial night, and that if you interpret and reconsider all of the verses and all of the scriptures, the 14 chapters connected to his description of these motions, well, they are in fact verified by the motions of all of the star trails in the time lapse photography of the movements of the luminaries over the course of an evening. And it's exactly what we've seen and what navigators have used for determining direction, especially at night, by finding the North Star and having it be the direction for north, no matter which way they are pointing in direction and trying to figure out their navigation. And so, it being the one fixed star of the celestial night, navigators for thousands of years have used it to determine which direction to go in making course over the seas, and now all navigation is situated in similarity. And so, um,
And we
my
never we never see a difference about the stars or
right,
the
not for
positions.
thousands of years, exactly. And so, my reconsideration of this led to my first book of the Flat Earth trilogy, which is the Flat Earth as Key to Decrypt the Book of Enoch. And I show how one can only understand what Enoch is describing in every chapter and verse of this portion of his book by applying those motions and those movements to the earth being the fixed foundation underneath which the luminaries move in circle in the firmament as described in the Genesis narrative, that we see that the earth and the heavens were already created in existence. On the second day, the firmament is put into place and fitted to the circle of the earth. On the third day, the dry land is elevated above sea level. And then on the fourth day, the luminaries created were set in the tabernacle of the firmament, and their motion is encircling the North Star Polaris. And so all of these things then um, can be understood, and this knowledge has been lost for at least the last 500 years with humanity's embrace of the heliocentric Copernican model for
Obviously,
understanding all of
impossible if we move to 2.1 million of kilometers every hour.
it. Right.
It's absolutely insane.
Yeah, absolutely. Because the stars would never remain in fixed position and the zodiac established in a way that we could see them revealed in constellation and pattern year after year after year for thousands of years.
Well, Mr. Zen Garcia, I want to do two, three question more. You have more time?
I've got about 15 minutes.
Okay, so let's do it.
Sure.
Okay. Um, what is your point of view about what there is after the ice wall? You did research about this? You have an idea, or we just found? I don't know. What is your point of view about this?
Well, yes, in my research of cosmology, both in the Vedic and also the news story that recently came out of a map being located in a Buddhist temple, 1,000-year-old map, that both
What is the
show,
name of that map? You have it?
I have an image of it, but one can just look up 1,000-year-old flat Earth map
Okay,
and the news
send me
story will
later
come
to
up.
share with the people that what map you are talking about. Okay,
Yeah, sure, I'll do that. It's
okay.
basically an azimuthal equidistant projection map. However, it does show other land masses outside of the perimeter of what is the ice wall, since we're not even to go beyond that point to investigate what might be out there. But in the Vedic cosmology, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, it speaks about in one of the cantos that there is also land out beyond what is the knowledge of the inhabited earth, and that certain demigods live there, and that it's off limits to humanity. And so these two sources provide information which forces us to reconsider as to the extent of the known creation and whether there truly is and other islands and continents and places outside of what we know and acknowledge as existing. And there's one other story called The History of the Rechabites, which is a biblical text, and it tells the story of a people that have been preserved by the Most High God and set apart in a place and in a land that is inaccessible to humanity, and that they've been living there in protection, in similarity as to possibly the stories of the Atlanteans or the Hyperboreans or others. Even though I believe those stories are connected to the North Pole and the Hollow Earth, but there might be stuff outside of the perimeter of the ice wall that we don't know about.
Very very interesting. We shared a lot of the same thinking. Thank you, Mrs. Zen Garcia. And about more not so important problem, but with something that many people talk about is about your court case.
Right, yeah.
Did you receive a suit from Simon Dan? I remember in this moment.
Well,
It's a nickname.
had we had a flat Earth challenge
Yes,
that when I came to this knowledge, I offered a challenge to all the globalists out there that they could win $8,500 if they could prove scientifically with two repeatable independent experiments that either curvature existed or that the earth was moving in excess of 100 miles an hour.
One of those, not both. One of those.
One or the other, and to have two independent confirmations of either or. And so this individual named Thompson, he took us up on the challenge. He's a software engineer, and he created these two programs that he believed verified the curvature of the earth. But as I spoke about and confirmed in the court, that curvature does not exist, and that anybody that truly does, for instance, a laser test, or like Samuel Burley Robotham, the Bedford level experiment, where he tied a flag to the mast of a ship and sent it out 6 miles across a level canal, one can immediately determine that there is no curvature to the earth, not
Yes,
in 1 mile or any other distance. And so,
we did a review about your document, and we translate in
mm,
Spanish, and we did a review in video about all the audio presentation. So this is a
yeah,
real
so very
case.
important.
This is a real case. We see the documentation was real. This guy
Oh,
insists
absolutely,
and
yeah.
goes to the court.
Right. It was tried in the magistrate court of Barrow County, here where I live. He was suing me for $15,000, and I had to defend myself. And you can see my rebuttal. It's been submitted and tied to an attachment to this particular court case, and it is in the public record for anybody that wants to review it or to appeal to the court for the documents that are related to this case.
But the
And
court
so,
just consider his proofs, because that is what is was in consideration, or they consider yours too.
well, yeah, they considered both because they had to determine whether he truly did deserve to be awarded that money, and if he truly created these experimentations, which, according to the stipulations of the rule, had to be applied to real world scenario. And so they had to be verifiable and repeatable, and that
Yes,
could be
science, real
confirmed by
science.
individual. Yeah, real science, exactly.
Yes.
And so the court, which was hearing and determining this particular case, they were not ruling on whether the earth was flat or whether it was round, but whether he had truly brought forth enough scientific and verifiable experiments to be awarded the $8,500 of the challenge. And the court ruled against him because, as I had mentioned in my rebuttal, all he had to do if he wanted to win the money, and all anybody had to do, was to do like a laser test or a experiment like Robotham established with the Bedford level
So that
experiment.
everybody can repeat or can,
Exactly.
not just your
And to
word.
show, right, and to show that indeed over 1 mile, 8 inches of curvature exists, and then according to the formula for determining the curvature of the earth, that inversely squared according to distance, that curvature increases, and that the drop off will be after the second mile 32 inches, and then the third mile 64 inches, and so on and so forth. And so it does not take a lot of distance to show what should be this curvature. And because people cannot do that, they have to reconsider, no matter what they think about the shape of the earth, that there is no curvature. And so that means the earth is not a ball. The whole dynamics of water is that it will also not adhere to a ball and settles in a level. And so people have to really reconsider all that we've been indoctrinated into with belief of the heliocentric worldview.
Yes, a doctrine finally that you receive from your very, very young age, so it's very difficult to think different. So,
Right.
so our final questions, and that's it for now, because I will, I don't want to abuse about your your time. Maybe we can have a meeting in the future to talk more deeply so issues, because it's very interesting.
Yeah,
Um,
certainly.
in your point of view, what is what is the way a person that don't understand anything about this discussion about flat Earth, you may improve the Earth is flat when you
There's no
talk with a
curvature.
person that don't understand anything about this?
There is no curvature in anybody in the world, as I shared in the various examples that I included in my testimony to the court. There is no curvature. Engineers, surveyors that establish railways, build bridges,
Never
canals.
measured, never discovered. Even Google doesn't have any information because doesn't exist.
Exactly. They do not include it in the construction or the determination of the building of that structure. And as I said, anybody can go forth with a laser and a mirror over a very short distance and determine that there's no curvature and that the earth is flat. Even with the way that the sun, you watch it set, and the light that comes off of, like, for instance, an ocean, that pillar of light from where the sun is setting to where you are on the beach is a continuous, unbroken stream of radiance. And so there's no curvature to break that pattern. And it shows that, again, there's no curvature. Even as I said also in the court case, one can see the Statue of Liberty at 60 miles distance, which should not be possible because there should be a half a mile of curvature, which hides and makes impossible seeing the Statue of Liberty. In the same way that from the shores of Lake Michigan in Chicago, one can see the skyline at 60 miles different distance. People can see from Oahu in Hawaii an island at 90 miles distance from them. And that island should not be visible because it should be under a full mile of curvature. And so these kind of things can be repeated, confirmed, and addressed by anybody in the world, and they show that curvature does not exist. And so, and this is fact. This is scientific fact, and anybody in the world can verify this if they just open themselves to this possibility.
Yes, I discuss the same all the time, and I share with the people that if we cannot measure the curvature, if we never see the curvature, if we fly in airplanes and we don't see curvature, it's because that doesn't exist, and that's it.
Absolutely.
That's it. No more talk, no more calculations, or you don't need anything else. The life
Right.
is the earth is flat, my friends. That's it.
Absolutely. The whole thing with, curvature from a plane, that's not a good example only because of the windows that are like fisheye lens and
Yeah,
they
sometimes they
create
yes.
curvature. And then the other thing is that because people have been indoctrinated into belief that the earth is round, they always think that they see curvature when in reality they do
Or
not.
if they
The best
see,
way,
yes, if they see the clothes that are a little round, they think the earth is round. It's not. It's the
right,
clothes.
or that consideration of, like, the sun, the moon, other luminaries being round, that the earth is round as well. No, all one has to do is get a laser pointer, go out to a stretch of land that is one or
Focus
two
about
miles
the
distant.
earth, right?
Yeah, and determine curvature. See if curvature really does exist. And when you find out that it doesn't, then you are forced to reconsider everything that you believed since the time you were a little child.
Well, Mr. Zen Garcia, has been a pleasure to talk to you, especially about to know your point of view. It's very interesting. I appreciate that you shared your map with us. I think I did receive. So I hope that in the future we can have some discussion. We have information too, very good information. If you need, I can share with you some information that is not in English, in the English word about flat Earth, because we did our own research. We
Yeah,
goes
sure.
to outside, take measures. Everybody is trying to find a way to prove the Earth is flat for everybody. So it is a
Well,
very good.
yeah, we're all as world being forced to reconsider these things, and so we need the research to be ongoing by everybody.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate for your time.
You are welcome. Be blessed.
Best wishes, my friends.
Shalom.
Bye
God
bye.
bless all.